Well, welcome back. You're going to find this very interesting. Now, the name of the game is make money and do so honorably and ethically. Now, real estate has a lot of advantages compared to other investments. So I'll talk a little bit about that as we go through this episode. Now, usually customers can see, almost walk on, or at least be close to the real estate they're purchasing, or they could drive by. Now, some people are buying online, which is absolutely okay, but you want to have someone go check the property even if you do buy online. But you could use the GIS system, which stands for the Geographical Information System, and most counties have that, and that allows you to do a lot of things online. And if the county's provided it, you can just take your time and really have a look at the areas around it. You can look at it at different levels. Matter of fact, I jokingly say you can tell if there's a geranium on the front porch because the satellite is so good. So my point is, most of these real estate investments are one that you can touch and feel. So they're all unique in their own right. So what are we talking about today? We're talking about how to structure a seller financing deal. But let me give you a little background before we get into that, okay? Now, stocks and bonds are much different. Those investors rely on something different than we rely on as real estate. First of all, they want to know who's going to manage that investment. So they'll want to know about the management team. They'll also want to know about the board of directors and the executive team that's basically driving the investment, making sure that it doesn't hit the rocks along the coast. All right, so they need to really check out this investment. Is there a market? Is it going to sell? Is there a reason for it to go up? There's a lot of things to check on when you buy a stock. So I'm not negative on the stock, but the strategies are different. Whereas real estate, we can buy and sell when we want. With a stock, you either have to buy and sell it on the exchange, or you probably won't be able to sell it. So we're going to talk about the structure of seller financing over the next few minutes. But real estate is unlike other investments, okay? The sellers have a lot of options. So you can take your price and lower it. You can add installment sales. You can add no down payment strategies. You can say make a lot of payments in the first few years, none in the subsequent years. There's lots of ways to change it. Now, brokers, they represent buyers and they represent sellers. Now, banks are much the same way, and so are title companies. But title companies can really help you a lot. How can they help you? Well, they have surveyors there. They know the different contractors that do home inspections. They know about appraisals. They know about payment plans. They know about the documentation. So title companies are very helpful. That doesn't mean an attorney couldn't do the same thing, but you guessed it already, the title company is probably going to be a lot cheaper. Title companies, they don't just shuffle papers. They really know everything about the property. They have the ability to research the history of the property. They also have the ability to research all the loans that are on the property. So they have a lot of options. Whereas stocks, you're going to have to find this information out from a broker, or you're going to have to do a lot of deep research. Now, I'm not suggesting for a minute that you want to do that. Now, if you started out with Apple stock from 10 years ago, that would be a great start today because you would have made a lot of money. Same thing with Microsoft, same thing with Facebook. All right, but those were the darlings now. What were the darlings 10 years ago? Well, maybe it was General Motors or General Electric. So things change, so it changes quickly. Real estate does the same thing. But with real estate, you can save yourself a lot of headache when you go to sell it if you're willing to do some financing. All right, so the title companies are A-OK, everything from surveyors to home inspectors to appraisals to knowing how to research the property and knowing how to research the loan. So they're going to be helpful because they get the documents that you basically need. So in this episode, I'm answering the question, how do you use seller financing? Well, you're going to need those documents. So you're either going to have to get them from an attorney and have them checked and do the same thing with the title company, but at least you got another person looking at what you're doing. The title companies are happy to help you sell a property or buy a property. They do both. Okay, now everything on real estate has to be done with a written contract. There's no way that you can buy real estate or sell real estate and have it legal unless it's a written contract. That means there's always a paper trail. Now, is the paper trail going to be the exact words that took place? No, but the financial part of the deal will certainly be in paper. So that means you have protection because when you buy a property, you want to have all that history on it. All right, now if you don't see the exact transaction, that's not going to matter because you got a title company doing the title work or an attorney to make sure that it's done absolutely correctly. All right, now I've been involved in an alternative part of real estate. It's really a subset of real estate itself, and that's tax liens and tax deeds for the last 30 years. Now, tax deeds are unwanted property. That means people didn't pay the tax. Now, what does that mean? Well, if someone doesn't pay the tax, the legislature is going to get involved, and they're going to get involved all the way down to the county treasurer level. Why? Because the law states that you must pay your property tax. Why do you pay property tax? Because that's what takes care of the police, the fire department, the school teachers, the schools, fix the roads, county employees. All those bills are paid with property taxes. So if people don't pay the property tax, I can tell you right now, the legislature has already authorized the Board of Supervisors or the county commissioners to do something about it. So what do? Well, they will tell the treasurer to levy the tax, collect the tax, and if they can't collect the tax, to seize the property, and when they seize that property, they're going to sell it at auction. And it's going to be a public auction. Now, they're going to sell it for a high price? No. They want to get rid of that property. It was unwanted. So first of all, the individual that owned it doesn't want it. Now the county doesn't want it. So what will they sell it for? They'll sell it for low prices, 60, 70, 80% discounts. That means you can get it into property for absolute peanuts. Now, on top of that, the treasurer is authorized to cancel the mortgage. That is, wipe out the mortgage from the county records. So these properties are sold for 10 cents, 20 cents, 30 cents on the dollar with no mortgage. Folks, it's not going to get a heck of a lot better than that. All right, so where's all this money going when they sell the property? The county is going to bring the money in. That's revenue coming in for taxes. And what they're going to do with it is they're going to pay the county employees first. Then the next thing they're going to do is pay the police department, pay the firefighters. Then they're going to start going through the school system and pay for the schools and the school teacher. You're getting the idea. So the county has a lot of bills to pay. And if they can't collect property tax, then they're going to take properties that are unpaid property, that are in default, and they're going to sell them at auction. So I don't make those rules, but I can tell you right now, the legislature mandates that those taxes will be collected. And who collects it? Well, of course, the tax collector does, working for the treasurer. All right. All of those properties can be resold back into the market, and once they're resold, they go back onto the honorable tax roll. So the county wants as many properties as possible on the honorable tax roll. So they're willing to give all kinds of discounts. Not unusual for properties to be sold 60, 70, 80% less than the tax assessed value. All right, so what are we doing today? We're answering a question, how to structure seller finance. Well, folks, if you can buy for 20 or 30 cents on the dollar, you could sell for anything you want. So you could sell for retail price. If the retail was 100,000, you could try to sell for 100. I don't teach that. I teach people the opposite of everybody else. I'm a contrarian. I want to buy it low, and then I want to sell it low. Now, what does that mean? That means I want to sell it way under the market so I don't have to contend with a lot of competition. And if I sell it below the market, then I also want to consider using seller financing. So how are we going to structure that? Well, the actual deal of structuring it, you can get all those documentations from a title company, as I said. You can also get them from attorneys. All right, what are those properties like? Well, some of them are used and abused. Some of those properties are going to take some fix-up. So how do you want to sell those properties? You don't want to try and get retail. You want to sell those properties way under the retail price. If you bought it for 20 or 30 cents, sell it for 60 or 65 cents and get rid of it. Now, if you can buy a property for 20 or 30 cents on the dollar, how many would you buy? Ask yourself that question, especially if it didn't have a mortgage. All right, now you just have to structure a business deal, make it competitive. In other words, get under the competitors on price, and now offer seller financing. You do that by getting the documentation from a title company, or you can do it all yourself, but it'd be much easier to get it from a title company, plus you know that everything is done correctly then, or you could use a local attorney to do the same thing. All right, so now you're using your skills, you're using your business savvy, and this is where the entrepreneur makes the most money. So for example, if you bought low, I'm going to say sell low. If you want to make it happen fast, then advertise, and make sure you advertise in a lot of places. You could use Facebook. You could use MLS system. You could use Zillow. You could use Trulia. You're getting the idea. You want to get as much information out there as possible. You can also use newspapers. You can use television. You can put signs all over the property. The point is, you've got to let the world know that that property is for sale. All you're trying to do is wave your sign, and you're trying to wave to all those bargain hunters. All right, so let's do an example of what's going to happen. All right, so you structure it any way you want. You can do a small down payment or a big down payment, or you can do a down payment and take the down payment over 4 or 5 or 6 months. Okay, basically what you're doing is you're trying to sell a property that has good value. Let's say it had $100,000 in value if everything was A-OK. But your property is used and abused. You want to be a little bit less than market. So why don't you sell it for, say, $65,000 if you bought it for $30,000? You've got a nice profit. That's a good margin of profit. Okay, would you like to make more? Well, of course you would. But which do you want? Do you want to get your money, move on to the next auction? Try and get top dollar? I don't try to do that. I want to be under the competition, and I want to be able to offer seller financing. Why seller financing? Because there's 25% of the market out there that doesn't qualify. What does that mean? That means they got a low FICO score. What they've done is they've gone to the bank and tried to get a loan, and they've been rejected. Now, people don't like to be rejected. So once they've been rejected, they're going to see your signs that say seller financing. That means you're willing to make a deal on the down payment, on the payments, on the term, everything. So if they're going to get their financing from a bank, that's A-OK, but they're going to have to be within the guidelines for the bank. That means they're going to have a good FICO score, they're going to have a good history, they're going to have a good down payment, and they're going to have a darn good job. Well, there's a lot of people that haven't done that, not because they intended to, but they've just been kind of sloppy and they mismanaged their money. You don't want to be that person. All right. Advertising the property is not difficult. You want to use all the things that I mentioned earlier, starting with Craigslist, then use all the electronic sites you can find, and be sure and use the commercial sites like Zillow, Trulia, and the MLS system. Pay to be on those systems so your property is exposed, because the exposure is going to show that you're under the market and under the competition. It's also going to show that you have seller financing available. If you're getting the idea, the whole key to this business is what are you going to do about selling? All right, selling is the thing that everyone's going to have trouble with. All right, put signs on the property. I have people that buy properties right all the time. They don't even put a sign on it. Well, when you don't have a sign, you're not going to generate eager buyers. It's not going to happen. People have to come and look 2 or 3 times. All right, so let's go through a seller financing structure. So the math works out this way. So let's start out where we had a $100,000 value. All right, but the tax auction buyer buys the property for 30 cents on the dollar. All right, now the buyer wants nothing else but to sell the property. If they're buying them to hold, it's a whole different story. But we're teaching people buy and then quickly sell it. All right, to quickly sell it, they're going to put a price on it under the competition at $65,000. All right, that puts you way under the assessed value. In addition to that, you're going to want a down payment. So you get, say, a $10,000 down payment. So what's left? There's $55,000. I can tell you, if they go to the bank, most people are going to get turned down. Why? One, they might not qualify. By that I mean they might have had some bad history, or they don't have a good FICO score, or even worse than that, the banks don't like to lend small amounts of money. They don't like to do loans under $100,000. In the future, you'll see they won't want to do under $200,000. Why? Because they want to make some points on that and sell the loan to somebody quickly. All right, so the point is, offer the $55,000 in financing, okay? So let's just pick a number. Let's say we figured out that we want to get $700 a month. Well, $700 a month, and the buyer has to pay the taxes and the insurance. Well, their annual payment just on the loan that you're giving them is going to be $700 times 12. That's $8,400 a year. So you put up $30,000 and you're already making $8,400 a year. That's a pretty nice return on your $30,000. All right, so if you do the term of the loan for 10 years, that's $84,000, and all you invested was how much? You invested $30,000. You're really getting a chunk of dough out of this. All right, now add back in the down payment, and you're getting $94,000 on a $30,000 investment. I don't know about you, but that's pretty darn good. From the buyer's perspective, they paid $65,000, then all the payments they're making to you and all the interest on this payment is going to be tax deductible. They're getting the idea. The point is, you're going to make money on the sale of the property, and you're going to make money on the financing. Deal structure makes a big difference. My name is Ted Thomas, and right below me is going to be some free gifts for you. But before I tell you about that, I want to tell you, before you purchase a property, be sure you've had boots on the ground. There's a lot of reasons for that. Things happen to properties, and I don't know what they are. There could be a fire, there could be a hurricane, could be that you haven't looked at and didn't see the chicken farm next door. I don't know what's happened to that property, and neither do you. But once you buy it, you're going to own it. So don't buy anything that you haven't had boots on the ground. That was number one. Number two, big mistake, is people don't have an exit strategy before they buy. So they get in there and they start bidding and bidding and bidding, and yes, they win the auction, but unfortunately they bid too much. So don't bid until you have a bidding strategy so that you know that you got to be way below the bidding strategy if you're going to make money. My name is Ted Thomas.